Hello and welcome to the collective reading for the Taurus full moon that's happening on the 15th or 16th of November, depending on where you live. I'm going to be breaking down the astrology of this moon, and as I do so, I'm going to be pulling some collective tarot cards. I always pull these oracle cards before doing any transit, but the oracle reading comes after the all 12 sign series reading, usually after the event as well. I work with 6-month cycles, so even though this is a full moon and it's kind of representing a level of completion and ending to something, we then get a download that we then work with up until the Taurus new moon next year. So channeled messages are going to come through, channeling as well. My name's Chloe. You know, I channel through my body. I do physical and vocal light language, amongst other things. You're seeing the physical light language. There's the vocal light language. All of that will be coming through to bring in healing, attunement, and activation codes to the messages that are going to come through in this reading. So I break down the astrology in a way more detail in this collective reading about how the celestial bodies are talking to each other at the exact moment of the lunation, and that forms a harmonic blueprint, right? An energetic frequency that is then imprinted into all of us that we then work with over the next 6 months. And so I really like to get a feel of that. I like to tap into what is the most integrated and expansive intention of the lunation, and the reason why I do that is because source works in mysterious ways, and it's the good, the bad, the beautiful, and the ugly, right? All of the things that happen in our life are all linked into that intention in the Taurus area of our chart, right? So you're going through something confusing or something might be a bit of a challenge. You can come back to what is the root intention behind all of this madness, and it helps give you some perspective of like, okay, what is this trying to teach me? How can I move forward with what's going on, and sort of also let go of fear and lean more into trust about what's unfolding, because it's not always going to be what would I like sweets and roses, you know. It's sometimes it can be the thorns of the rose that are activating certain pathways that we need to walk along in order to get to smelling the beautiful rose. Right, so let's get into it. Well, this is a Venus ruled moon. And for half the world, this is happening on a Friday, which is Venus's day. And the other half of the world is happening on a Saturday, which is Saturn's day. And Venus at the time of this lunation is in the sign of Capricorn, which is ruled by Saturn. So it doesn't really matter which day it's happening on. We've got a familiar theme of Saturn and Venus showing up here. And that is straight off the bat, letting us know that what is being established with this full moon, with the download that will then unfold over the next 6 months, is a heightened level of maturity and integrity around relationships, around connection, around love. And that doesn't have to be a relationship with another person. It can be with source, it can be with your spirit guides, it can be with yourself. There's a level of maturity to Saturn, and Saturn is going direct. It's about 3 or 4 hours before the full moon is exactly full. It's happening on the same day. So we're going to have a big shift in the Saturnian energies. It's finally moving forwards after its long retrograde phase. Like, this is when we start to see everything that we've been cultivating in terms of our inner maturity, our inner authority, our integrity, our commitment. All of that's been cultivating. And now we're going to start to see that more outwardly expressed. With the direct motion. So we have this overall theme around kind of leveling up. Where do we desire? Where do we love? What does our creation energy mean to us? And how do we then work with it? All of those themes of Venus. So that's an overall theme that's kind of flavoring what's going on with this lunation. The moon itself is conjunct Uranus. I'm going to talk a bit politics now, just because this is one of my favorite examples at the moment, because it so highlights the power of astrology, right? I always kind of call astrology creepy just because it blows my mind every time how much we're influenced by it, right? Whether we're aware of it or not. So Mars and Uranus conjoined at 24 degrees of Taurus. And when they did so, this happened on a certain political figure who has got just recently been elected into power. Has been a bit of a big deal. This Mars-Uranus conjunction at this degree happened on this figure's midheaven. And the midheaven is an astrological point that is linked into your career. Now, around this degree in Taurus is a fixed star called Algol, and this is often linked into the Medusa's head. It can be linked into losing one's head. And sort of like, then if you think about, so this happened, this conjunction between Mars and Uranus at this degree happened on that certain figure's midheaven, conjunct Algol, kind of nearly lost their head, right? I mean, it was a graze, let's be real. But that's one side of the power of the magnetism of astrology and how it compels us into certain spaces and certain frequencies and certain situations. Now, the person who released the propellant, I'm trying to be really mindful of YouTube and it's what it's trying to flag. Okay, so a couple of cards have come out and they keep putting them back. So I'm going to finish this bit and then get back into the moon. The person who propelled the propellant had a Mars-Uranus conjunction in their natal chart. It wasn't in Taurus. But it's sort of showing you like the power of astrology and what it's capable of bringing up. Now, I just bring that up just because this happens to be the similar degree of what happened earlier with that kind of big event. This moon is still going to be conjunct Uranus and Algol. Now that Medusa energy is also linked into distorted narratives, right? There's a lot of mythology around Medusa. She was often deemed to be a horrendous, hideous monster, but there was a reason why she turned that way. You can go do your research on that. There's certain word that I can't necessarily say on YouTube. But it is a sense of, especially with Uranus, what I'm really feeling with this, and remember the moon is exalted in Taurus. It's the favorite place of the moon to be, rather than the worry and the fear the moon can bring, right, of whether your needs are being met or being nourished. The moon is in Venus's land, in the land of Taurus, of that feeling good in the 3D world, right? Your physical senses, right? A really heightened intuitive connection to your physical body and the needs of that, and just feeling very taken care of, that moon in Taurus. With Uranus, conjunct Algol. Now, what I'm getting with that is a release of distortions around independence, around of this, and this is where the distorted narratives come in, and losing one's head and things we've lost our head over, and things that are being sort of released in the losing of one's head, right? The limitations of the physical realm and our expectations of them. We're releasing illusions around that Uranus is bringing in sudden changes, sudden shifts. Uranus is the path clearer, the breaker of chains. It brings about situations very suddenly that shift your whole life if you're not in alignment with what your soul's journey is all about. It happened to me. I still feel like there's a couple more cards before I start reading them. What was I saying? It happened to me when I was in a 10th house year and Uranus entered into Taurus, was trying my sun. My whole life blew up. Work, home, love, all of it. Kaput, right? And it was really quite dramatic at the time and very, very discombobulating. Everything had broken down, but I wasn't happy. I didn't have the strength to change what was going on in my life. I was really, really very broken emotionally, mentally and physically. And Uranus did me a solid by shaking these things up. I'm very loyal and I can tend to stick to things even if I'm not really being met with that energy back, all right? So it blew up my life. So I didn't have to, it made the changes for me, what I'm trying to say. So If you're in alignment, Uranus doesn't tend to be that dramatic. But if there are certain things in your life where you just haven't had the energy, the time, the motivation, or whatever it is to sort of shift and change with, this full moon can bring about sudden changes. All in order to get you in alignment with your soul's path. Uranus is the oddball of the solar system. It doesn't care that it's different. It's very maverick. It can be very inventive, very future thinking, and it isn't bothered about what society thinks of it, right? And I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean in whatever those sort of limiting beliefs and preconceptions that we can have about whether we're going to be appreciated, accepted into the tribe, approved of. All of those things are going to be released. All of those limitations that are stuck in your physical senses, right, in your physical body. Taurus, the first earth sign, combined with Algol and combined with Algol and Uranus, the moon is going to be liberated of distortions around needs and nourishment, around the intuition that you have in your physical senses that have blocked you from genuinely feeling embodied in the 3D realm. Disha, hey, Venus. Okay, Dieni Mutufiala. So let's read some of these cards. Where do they want to go? Diala. Di elema di shinimu tufienia di shalama di etinima elama di anima ituela di shanimu tuela. So we have the 7 of Wands with the star. Now the 7 of Wands for me is very much about this figure is standing on the higher ground, right? So they have the advantage, but they do not look like it. Look at that unsteady face. Look, that figure is like, oh God, what's going on? I've now got to be in competition with everybody. I've got to constantly defend my position here. And there's a real sense of unease and unsteadiness, right? You see, they're not exactly on flat ground. They're wearing different shoes with different heels. So there's that overall level of unsteadiness of essentially this figure does not know their own value, right? Isn't like fully embodied in their understanding of their value and that they do have the higher ground. And so this is one of the archetypal things we're trying to work with, because obviously when we're then social, when we're aware of like this scarcity mindset out there of like then there isn't enough room for everybody, right? This is whenever this card shows up, it's calling us to look, where do we not feel that value, right? Taurus is often linked into value. Where do we see scarcity rather than abundance? We've got Venus is the Empress card showing up later on, and it's come with the star card, which is Aquarius, right? And this is all about deep healing on the spiritual and physical realms and bringing that together and really being, you see this figure, she is unclothed, right? She is rid of masks. This figure is covered in masks, so they're hiding from the true reality that they are loved and that they are value, right? And that's something that we're all kind of like figuring out and working through. And the star card is about deep healing and getting back to your unique self. In modern astrology, Uranus rules Aquarius. So there is this element of that Uranian energy coming in with the star. It is the galactic energy working on the 3D. It's also about hopes and dreams. So this full moon is saying we're going to be going through, I think we're going to get like a completion level with that full moon around this energy, right? We're going to have more of awareness of our own value. We're going to have a more awareness of our unique energy that is both the spirit, the physical and the unseen realms combined, right? We've just come off of that Scorpio new moon that happened the day after Halloween, Shaman, on All Saints Day, followed by the Day of the Dead, right? So we were clearing out a lot of wounds around the self, and the sort of the intense, deep emotional reservoir that's being really elevated. And so this is, you see here, this fixed water as well. Scorpio is fixed water. So there's a real, so what I feel with this full moon in terms of the shorter cycle is we're going to get an upgrade around the awareness of this, the healing process back to ourselves in order to hope and dream in ways that are resonant with the truth of our frequency. So I feel like this is two-pronged. One, an upgrade with this that's allowing us to step more into our unique being, as well as part of the process over the next 6 months. I don't feel like that's the major energy, because we're the sense of awareness, especially in our physical senses, right? What are your spidey senses telling you? What does your physical body, how is it resonating? What clues is it telling you? How are you feeling embodied in something, right? I often find that's like the last stage of the phase of going through having an emotional response to something, realizing that you may need to change your perspective, have a mindset, and then implementing it. And then all of a sudden, after a while, if you put that into practice, whatever it may be, all of a sudden something clicks. And it's just something that becomes natural, that it's embodied. It's part of your automative nervous default systems, right? You know, when you learn to drive, right, it goes into that default zone, right? So this is when this sense of awareness of our own value and our capacity to be uniquely ourselves it's going to be embodied. It's going to be, we're not having to second guess it. Now, following that, we have the Page of Swords and the Two of Wands. And so the Page of Swords is my time traveler, right? This figure is looking to the past with its body being in the present, but moving towards the future. Swords is very objective. It's the capacity for us to have that kind of higher perspective about what's happened in the past, learn the wisdom from it, be in the present, always with the momentum of moving forwards. So there's a real sense of cultivating a new perspective here with everything that we've learned from the past, right? And not letting it diminish our movement into the future or our enjoyment in the present moment. And so, you know, this sort of off with your head kind of energy of being able to release what has been stagnant, and allow that energy to have more flow that is bringing in a perspective of times happening all at once. I've been getting kind of into not necessarily time travel, but watching more alien stuff, which was never usually my vibe. And how a lot of people who've been researching aliens as kind of think that they are future versions of ourselves. That and I know this is a very common theme in the spiritual community of it's the future selves are contacting us, right? It's not necessarily always the past. It's coming from the past as well. But like I talked about this in the Aries, the Scorpio oracle reading. For ages, I've been kind of musing on the fact that, do we manifest or are we just precognitive, right? Right, we set that intention for this manifestation because we already know it's going to happen. I'm still figuring that one out myself, right? Don't have all the answers. And that's the fun part of existing. That this Page of Swords is the healing of the past timeline, the awareness of the future timeline being present now. So if you think of the journey that you've gone on over the last 3 months, 6 months, a year, 5 years, 10 years, and you just go, whoa, I am not the same person anymore. Like this, I have shifted and changed. And then you think about your future and you think, do you think it's likely that you're going to be continuing on that trajectory? Most definitely so. That you can then draw that energy into your current energy that allows this to bring peace to the past and heal the past as well. But overall, it is generally a shift in perspective. And as I said, that release of the mind. You see all these birds here, right? I feel like Algol and Uranus. Uranus is like can be seen as the higher octane of Mercury, of our capacity to perceive things in, as I said, more future orientated and a bigger awareness of our unconscious mind, of source, and being able to connect to it. All these birds are being released. They're going to fly away, expand, and come back to roost. And it's come with the Two of Wands. This is long-term manifestation, right? The Two of Wands, this figure is standing on flat surface, right? They're in a castle. They are surveying their realm and they are cultivating and establishing what their passions, what their instincts, where do they want to go. They're not rushing into it, right? They're really sort of figuring out who they are, and what direction they want to go in. But it is about embarking on a new journey, but allowing, this is saying, allow yourself time to recalibrate. So this is air and fire. And what's interesting about this is the moon is being ruled by Taurus, by Venus, sorry. Venus is in Capricorn, ruled by Saturn. Saturn is in Pisces, traditionally ruled by Jupiter. Jupiter is in Gemini, ruled by Mercury. Mercury is in Sagittarius, ruled by Jupiter. So by going by energy, rulership energy, the moon, not the sun, the moon is being governed by a joint venture of Jupiter and Mercury. So we got that fire and air combining here in the embodiment, right? So we've got this sense of our instincts, fire, and our passions and our courage and our drive, our motivation, combined with our perspectives, right? And Gemini is very curious. It's able to adapt and change and not throw the baby out with the bathwater, of allow those new perspectives to come through. Mercury in Sagittarius is very passionate. It's very, wants to speak the truth. It wants to find things out. It wants to communicate with other people. There's all this outward expression of this inner embodiment that is being activated with this moon. And following that, we have some gorgeous energy from the Queen of Cups and the Empress. So the Queen of Cups, she can see into the future, but she is so serene. She is in fact turning into the ocean. You see her foot is turning blue, right? So she is not in a fear state. This is about a deep cultivation of our emotional body, right? Of our emotions, and our sense of creativity and imagination and flow state. So following this sort of, this is very much a sort of a pause, take your time, gather, recalibrate your perspective, your passions, as well as cultivate your emotional responses and leaning into a sense of you're not having to worry about the future. So the word trust has been coming up for me all year, and it's felt very loud with this moon. Of having trust in your 3D environment, having trust in your body, in your vessel, in your automative responses, and really allowing yourself to take it slow, right? Taurus is fixed earth, it's the slowest sign. And it's like the bulls take their while to get there, but there's no moving them. So there's a real sense of solidity that's coming in, as well as a sort of just a slowness in the cultivation process, right? Because the moon's conjunct Uranus, and it's like off with your head energy, as I said. And that, I'm not seeing that as a bad thing. I'm seeing that as the limitations, the distortions in the physical realm are going to be released in order to be transmuted. And the process to work with that is really allowing it to happen and staying in the state of serenity, right? She, as I said, she's very psychic. This is also about cultivating your psychic emotional body. And we have got the Empress. Hello, Venus, right? So this is all about creation and fertility and feeling good in the 3D realm, right? She's really allowing this sense of this to flow through our water body and strengthen in our physical vessel. With the High Priestess and the Six of Wands. High Priestess is kind of a combination of these two cards, actually, which I've never thought of before. She is your higher self. She is drawing towards you that which serves abundance of fertility based on the pomegranate and the fern leaf. She has the two pillars which mark the material and spiritual world. This is the moon's card, right? So when we blend these together, we are then able to draw towards you the things that really serve you. So again, this is a level of trust. She knows that that's happening. She's fully aware. She's not in a fear mindset of how it's going to happen or when it's going to happen, simply that it is already happened. We're just playing catch up. It is, as I said, the moon's card. So a heightened intuition in your physical body, right? This can release a lot of trauma in the physical vessel as well, right? Or when you go into certain situations and it's part of, it's a situation that's very similar to one that's happened before, and you go into fight and flight mode. And what I see with this is a release of the trauma responses that are exaggerated in places of safety that no longer serve you having that response mechanism. They're just sort of hitting at the back of my neck, like at the top of the spine. What was I saying? That the physical body is then going to be in higher alignment. So when your spidey senses are going off, you can trust it more. When your spidey senses are telling you, hey, walk this way, or pick that fruit because your body needed that, there's going to be more of an alignment of what that physical vessel is saying. And then that Six of Wands. So that Six of Wands is all about going out and doing the thing that you instinctively know you need to do. And it's probably had challenges, but you just did it because you needed to do it. It was a thing that was just in alignment with your soul's path. And it's led to a sense of feeling victorious in yourself, right? You're really proud of what you've done and who you are and where and everything that's happened. But there's a byproduct of this card, and that is that this figure is being celebrated. They're about to go and have a massive banquet. So there's something around outside recognition, as well as that inner recognition of yourself and the journey that you've gone on, and you're feeling very victorious about all of this. Okay, so let's get into some more astrology. So as I said, the sun and the moon, the Mercury, Uranus and the moon are conjunct Algol. Right, it's a pretty intense energy. It is also very, as I said, liberating of old narratives and old distortions that are setting you free. And so the sun and the moon are making aspects to Neptune and Pluto. Now, for those of you, I cannot recommend enough the Pluto in Capricorn oracle reading. This is because what's going on with Pluto, with Neptune and Uranus, they are making harmonious aspects to one another in earth signs, in yin signs, earth and water signs. They're the three outer planets. They're not visible to the naked eye, very kind of galactic energy. It's more the long-term archetypal shifts in our reality. And it is all about recalibrating to our root id power around the truth of the magical reality that serves our soul's path. Now, that's all happening in yin signs, and it's going to be going on until next year when all of them move into yang signs, fire and air, with Saturn. Whoa, this doesn't happen very often, guys. Anyway, this formation is showing up in this moon. So if you want a deeper understanding of all of that, go watch the Pluto in Capricorn oracle reading. There's a Pluto playlist. It's really easily accessible. So we have the sun and the moon making harmonious aspects to Pluto, Neptune, and obviously Uranus is involved as well. So this is combining that sense of what's being activated with this full moon is an awareness of our magical reality, that it isn't an illusion, and that is the Neptune retrograde. Right, it's pulling back the veil of that illusion that there isn't abundance for everyone, miracles aren't for everyone, and the magical reality isn't real, right? So it's pulling back that veil. And with Pluto is conjunct Ceres. Ceres is an asteroid. She represents abundance, the harvest, nurturing and nourishing. Bounty, right? The grain coming in. And she's coming into a conjunction with Pluto. She's making harmonious aspects with the sun and the moon, along with Pluto and Neptune. So there's a real sense of what's going on with Pluto, of the root id power, and what's being transformed, the magnetism we're drawing towards us in Capricorn, which is longer term building, right? Really sort of collective energy there with Ceres of the harvest. Pluto's going to be moving. How many days later? 4 days later is going to be moving into Aquarius for the final time, right? So we've got this really beautiful energy with Ceres and Pluto of elevating the nourishment that we're getting from this Pluto transit, Pluto's linked into the dead, and it can be linked into like digging up resources from the underground, like jewels and gems. And so there is a sense of what's being revealed what's being dug up in terms of releasing things from the ancestors, recalibrating our own rooted power in alignment with this sense of nutrition, of resources, of bounty, of the harvest, of the great Earth Mother series, Ishali or Demetra or any other number of great Earth Goddess Mother energy around the world. And this is trining the moon and trining Uranus. And trines are an aspect of Jupiter, and they bring in wisdom and elevation. There's a sense of bringing together and a deeper understanding. And with that comes a level of confidence that allows more flow, more abundance, more opportunities. So there really is around our emotional body, whether our needs are being met, how we give and receive nourishment. There's a real sense of shifting of old wounds linked into the ancestors and activating a higher level of longer term build structure, Capricorn, in regards to how our body responds to the 3D world, right? How do we find our joy? How do we slow down and smell the roses and get still and patient and slow? That came through quite a lot in the oracle reading for the Scorpio new moon. What we're going through is quite huge. We've jumped timelines and now we're recalibrating and re-understanding what tools are now at our disposal as we're entering into this new paradigm. And it is requiring this element of slowness. It is reclining, just allowing more stillness and not over worrying about the process and the plans and the length of time your integration process may be taking. And so there is a sense of allowing that process, allowing that nourishment to come in by being very kind and very loving to yourself and not the hyper rushing around everywhere. You know, obviously that's good sometimes, but there is a requirement here of just letting it digest into your body. And with the aspect to Neptune, again, this is harmonious sextiles that we're working with between Pluto, Neptune, Pluto, the moon, and Uranus. Neptune is also trine the sun. So there's a real sense of vision, of clarity, right? Of being able to perceive the truth of things, right? Scorpio goes into the darkness in order to find the truth. And the sun being there allows us to look at the difficult things, allows us to look into the darkness and find the resources that are within there. So we have this combination of that trine with Neptune, of really integrating that new reality into how we perceive the world, right? Our vision, our animation, our clarity. Funny enough, the only card that's come through while I'm talking about all of this is the Seven of Cups, and that is my fantasy card. That is my dream card. It's also my channeling card, right? So all the possibilities. This is saying about going beyond the limitations of what you think is rational, that is going to come and nourish you and give you joy and give you that feel-good factor of Taurus, right? That sense of stability, that sense of home, of the pleasures, your favorite things. We're opening up to new possibilities around that with that Seven of Cups. What else did I want to say? Right, so the moon talked about the sextile with Neptune, again, more intuitively aligned to get creative and connect the dots and find appreciation for this new magical, well, not the new magical reality, our deeper awareness of that reality being a reality. The trine with Pluto and Ceres, as I said, more powerful nourishment, right? More tapping into our power and finding the abundance in there, finding the opportunities there as we follow our intuition. So those are the major aspects that the sun and the moon are making on this full moon. So they're with the outer planets, basically, and Ceres. So it is tying into more galactic energy, more universal energy. Right, that's part of longer term trajectories, more archetypal shifts in our frequencies that is allowing that moon to get more nourishment, more abundance, more fertility, more feel good, right? Whenever it's Taurus season, I find myself slowing down. I want to be barefoot on the ground. I want to smell the roses. I want to just slow down. And so there's an element of how do we nourish ourselves? How do we ground ourselves? And how do we build in this 3D world from a space of equilibrium in our physical vessel. Because speaking of equilibrium, Venus over in the sign of Capricorn, right? So she's getting serious. She wants to work hard. I love Venus in Capricorn. There's a level of like finding inspiration in the bigger structures on this planet, right? The bigger ecosystems, realizing that we're operating in an ecosystem, finding more holistic programs and ideas and mentalities that we can then use and connect the dots and get creative with that serve us for our longer term building. You know, Capricorns often work hard, play hard. And so when Venus is there, there is that element that we're going to have over the next 6 months of being able to buckle down, able to commit, right? That Saturn energy ruling Capricorn, able to be integral in our actions, knowing that really healthy balance between work and play. She is exactly square the nodes in Aries and Libra, and obviously Venus rules the nodes. And so there's that sense of, I said, that physical equilibrium in our bodies. Well, Venus is square the south node in Libra and the north node in Aries. So there's a real sense of independence and balance coming in here. Squares are an aspect of Mars. They can bring about conflict, drama, frustration, winning at all costs. Just know if these things do come up, they're always pointing at you. Do you need to look at these things in this way? Is this healthy? Do you want to work with this energy? Can this elevate? Six of Cups as well. And then the Nine of Pentacles and the Magician. Three of Swords in reverse. So that square with squares are also about building. Mars is about motivation, drive, and action. Squares create friction. Where there's friction, there's energy in order to create. So squares are about building in the long term. So Venus is square the south node and the north node in Aries. So there's a real sense of commitment to our longer term legacy around the balance that we're finding, the truth that we're finding with Libra, and the independence and confidence that we're finding with Aries. So this is all instilling into the moon, right? We've got the Three of Swords in reverse. And so this is, you know, if you think about the Libra energy of the people pleasing, of the social harmony, of the social discord that we're often facing. These are the perspectives, the ideas, the spells, the words, the limitations that have distorted your heart's frequency. And this doesn't just have to be romantic. It can be about anything that has blocked your heart from truly flourishing, right? We see, isn't there a heart in... there's a heart on the Empress. Right, so these are falling away with this moon, right? This is what I feel like with that Jupiter energy over in Gemini, right? Of our ability to let go. Remember, Algol, the fixed star, off with your head kind of energy. Let go of things that have set our head raging, set our head limited. Those words, that's not proper English, but anyway. There's the Three of Swords in reverse. These swords are falling away, right? There's a sense of embodiment that we're taking on that is no longer letting those ruminations take a hold over us and limit us. We then have the Six of Cups that wants to go with the Seven of Cups, followed by the Nine and the Magician. So Six of Cups is about making peace with the past. It's the biggest house in tarot. This figure follows the Five of Cups, and this figure is now smelling the roses, smelling the flowers that have come from that grief, that period of grief, that period of pause, right? Where everything is composted and broken down in order for new life to come through. So there's something about really being at peace with the past and seeing the joy, the benefit in it, in order to help us move forward, where we're not limited by preconceptions that have influenced our emotional body. As I said, feeling safe and secure in your emotional body that will then influence how you physically move through the world. I love the bigger house. I love that sense of safety and security. We've got things from the past. It can be soul family, ancestors, old versions of you, letting you just come into a state of flow, right? Remember that Neptune is i.e. water signs, is influencing the sun and the moon. Scorpio is also water, and we have Saturn, who is ruling Venus at the time, who's just gone direct. So we're really making peace with the past. Saturn's about cause and effect, karma, that kind of thing. So there's a big sense of being at peace with all of that. Then with the Nine of Pentacles, this is kind of what I was saying about the holistic lifestyle, right, of Venus being in Capricorn. All work, all play. Right, this figure is hanging out in their garden. They're chill. They've made the right decisions that have meant that they have a good work and good home life, good life all round, but very independent, right? So there's a real sense of being able to say no, being able to figure out what it is that you need to do in order to get to this space. So I love that this is showing up, especially this, even though this is Venus in Virgo, especially with Venus being in Capricorn and Earth sign. We're like, how do we make this practical? How do we infuse this into the physical realm? You know, as I said, she's squaring the North and the South node. So there's elements of the actions of the Venusian qualities influencing this moon that are in alignment with eclipses. And they're obviously a bigger, longer term cycle. So you're in alignment with your trajectory moving forwards rather than sort of poor impulse control. And then the Magician, I think I mentioned the Magician earlier. This is obviously Mercury, right? And Mercury is ruling Jupiter, and as I said, Jupiter's ruling Saturn, Saturn's ruling Venus. And so there's a sense of as above, so below. I was just actually looking into the mythology and the symbolism between the lilies and the roses on the Magician's card, because the two black cats that we adopted from a rescue centre, we decided to call them Lily and Rose because it came to me. I didn't have any inspiration on the names, and then it just came to me because of the Magician card, because they are definitely magicians. There's no getting around it. That this is as above, so below. This is the honouring of the spiritual and the physical realm, and the capacity to work with all of those resources and create and manifest in the 3D, right? That Taurus energy. I think like the British monarchy, I think the Queen was a Taurus sun or a Taurus rising, can't quite remember. Prince Charles is a Taurus moon. Taurus is often linked into royalty. Right, the bull was a very fertile symbol for a very long time. The Indo-Europeans cultivated horses and cattle, and that's when all of a sudden we started getting more patriarchal gods, right? Especially linked around thunder, and also this very strong reverence for the bull, reverence for the power and the strength and the capacity to build cities and civilizations from our ability to harness these things. So I feel like there's blockages around manifestation that may have felt like it's been going really slowly, right? That Uranus moon algal energy, that something is shifting where we're going to start to see the movement happen. Something that's been happening to me quite a lot recently is simply surrendering my fears, surrendering my worries, and not like low-key thinking about it in the back of my mind, or like worrying if I've got enough time to do the things that I need to do, and then certain situations that I thought might limit or diminish, or I'd have to work around, shift and change in order, and then facilitate my needs without me really having to do anything. And it's so far it's in the little things, and it's building and it's building and it's building, and this is the level of trust, right? And moving away from fear, and really just being so aware that everything that happens, the good, the bad, the beautiful and the ugly, all the mistakes, all the difficulties, all the challenges have led to events in the future, events that I was not consciously aware of that happened in the future, the actions that have happened that were difficult led to facilitating the thing in the future. And this is really like leaning into the trust energy of the more and more I'm practicing, every moment is alignment, right? And not stereotyping certain ideas of what that should look like. The less I'm in conflict, the more I've noticed that start to build and build and build, because there's a level of trust there of like, how can I trust my higher self when I'm at my peak, right? When I'm like, oh, I'm in my flow, everything's great. And then not trust my higher self when I'm feeling crap, when things aren't going right. Like, or the speed in which the things are happening, right? We're so impatient with our manifestation, with our plans and all of that. There's this element of trust in that higher self, trust in that source in all areas, right? And that will bring in a level of the magician of like everything that we're doing is creating towards integration, expansion, abundance. And we just don't always think we know what that looks. We put too many assumptions on what we think that looks like, and the more that we stop doing that and the more that we move out of conflict with what's going on, honestly, I only try and talk about things that I've put into practice that I then see work. I have just seen a heightened level of flow without me really having to do very much about it. It doesn't mean that I don't get irritated and I don't have bad days, but I'm not finding that I'm not finding that energy difficult in the same way that I used to, where it's like, oh, I've got to do this and got to be that and always got to be at this standard. It's like, no, sometimes you're just having a crap day, right? And you may not be responding in the way that you'd really like to be, but that's okay. And as long as you're mindful and aware of that, not hating yourself, and realize that might be part of a process that you've got no idea that's happening in the future, and just sort of let that go and then follow your instincts of what you need to do in that moment. I love that magician's come through with the high priestess of our manifestation in the 3D world, right? From a deeper place of harmony. Speaking of harmony, right, is that everything I wanted to say? No. Venus is sextiling exactly by degree Juno over in Scorpio, where the sun is. Now, Juno represents commitment, your ride or die, right? She's pretty powerful. She's often a thing that I look for when I'm doing synastry charts for relationships, right? Of what's going on with the Junos and the Saturns of the chart. So a sextile is an aspect of Venus. This brings about creativity, sense of connection, appreciation, love, harmony, play, right? The grace and favor of Venus. There's an easy free-flowing energy happening with Juno and Venus, and so there's a sense of commitment to what's happening here, and the commitment in the sign of Scorpio, which is able to go into the darker realms, able to go into the underworld. We're able to bring these polarities together and not be scared or hiding from that energy. Also, Scorpio goes into all of that in order to find the truth. So there's a real sense of making sure speaking of which, of making sure that we're not ignoring the truth of the reality around us, right? Rather than allowing our mind to distort through fear and worry. We've got this very strong Juno over in Scorpio, working with Venus in Capricorn, of how do we build from this place of power, but also it's this yin energy, right? That's very it cultivates, it brings strategy and nuance. It really nourishes this slow unfolding of us. We've got the Judgment card. This is Pluto, high Pluto, and so there's a sense of resurrection. I can see this in terms of the Venusian qualities of like, what are you connecting to? If you think about the Devil card being the Capricorn card, I don't often read the Devil card in a negative way, but I'm just thinking of things that have had a bind over you, have chained us, right? That algal energy, along with Uranus and the moon and Juno, is elevating a level of commitment over things that do not bind you in a way that does you a disservice in this lifetime, right? That diminishes this. So this is all about ascension energy, right? Of old versions of yourself, of the dead, ancestors. They're being raised up, so they're not stuck in stagnant energy. They're being able to move on and with a higher perspective. So there's something around that Juno Venus energy of you letting go of old desires, old wounds, paranoia, all of the sort of the intensity that leads you into catastrophizing. Because Juno's also conjunct Lilith. And it's still sextiling Venus as well. And Lilith is about respect, honor, dignity, equality. And if she's not getting it in any kind of relationship dynamic, whether that be at work, a lover, the world, right? She's like, no. And she's had the conversations and she's met with hard no's for no good reason. She's confident enough to pick up her bags and go and live her best life. So there's something around that which has bound in the stuck, fixed energy of Scorpio that's had a hold over us is being released. With this Judgment card. Okay, so that is the Venus energy. Let's go to Jupiter and Mercury very quickly. So as I said at the beginning, Venus is in Capricorn, ruled by Saturn. Saturn is in Pisces, ruled by, traditionally ruled by Jupiter, which is what I work with. And Jupiter is in the sign of Gemini, ruled by Mercury. Mercury is in Sagittarius. So we have mutual reception between Mercury and Jupiter. And they are ruling the moon. They are ruling Neptune, Saturn, Pluto, Ceres, and Venus, and therefore the south node as well. So Jupiter and Mercury, they're basically opposite one another. They are in mutual reception, and this means that they're psychically connected. They're in each other's realms, and they're facilitating each other's journeys in the realms that they're in. Now, traditionally, they're not in their favorite places to be, right? Because they rule the other side. But I don't necessarily agree with that framework from the Hellenistic period, which is is my baseline for astrology. What I like about this is our capacity to change our minds. They're immutable signs, right? And Sagittarius is that fiery, moving energy. It wants to roam. It is ruled by Jupiter, so there is a generosity of spirit. There's an ease of our fluidity in our instincts. And Mercury being there is sort of the desire to seek out that information that liberates us. That brings us back to universal truth. And Jupiter in Gemini, oh my god, if you've not seen the Jupiter in Gemini transit series, I cannot recommend it. I really can't recommend it enough. We get Jupiter in Gemini once every 12 years. I love Jupiter in Gemini. This is our capacity to find wisdom in lots of small things and be able to shift and change and learn and grow. Curiosity, playfulness, really allowing us to not take things so seriously. So Jupiter and the wisdom, that it is uncovering. It's retrograde at the moment, and that can often see us question everything and not necessarily feel the outward expression of the Jupiter energy, but it all is recalibrating internally and bringing depth and nuance to your inner wisdom. I see Gemini as like the neural synapses of like creating new synapses, new ideas. Gemini, as I said, very curious. It isn't stubborn in its ideology. It's very fluid. And this opposition can see our wisdom and our faith not in alignment with how we're communicating. This can see lots of arguments with people around things that you believe in and everybody thinks that they're right. But the flip side, when oppositions are in balance, this is a real capacity to ignite the truth in very different ways of being able to shift and change, and that Mercury in Sagittarius is like beelining for the ideas, the perspectives, the information that is serving your capacity to roam and explore and do all the side quests and really just expand out into the world with this sense of momentum and movement. And with that opposition to Jupiter in Gemini of like really allowing the capacity to engage. Speaking of Gemini, lol. Engage in more playful energy, right? Mercury in Sagittarius can be a bit of a preacher energy. So I love this harmonization with Jupiter and Gemini of like getting just relaxing a little bit more about ideas and philosophies, and really allowing for more possibilities and perspectives to come through. And all of this is influencing this moon, which, as I said, is like releasing those sort of stuck perspectives, stuck limitations in the physical body. The Gemini and so the Mercury and the Jupiter energy is allowing a integration of more things than we thought we were capable of integrating. Oh, they like that one. Let's get one more card on those. We've got the Queen of Swords and the Lovers. Let's see what one more card wants to come out, and then we'll move on to Mars. We'll touch on Mars briefly, because Mars is ruling the Sun, and the Sun and Mars are in each other's realms. So we have another set of what's called mutual reception. Ooh, okay, lots of swords here with the Page of Wands. So we have for this full moon, this is the Jupiter, Jupiter, Mercury energy in Gemini and Sagittarius. So we've got fire and air again, and the Gemini card, that is influencing this moon. And we have a download coming in, right? The Page of Wands. This is the new perspective, a new idea, the new inspiration, right? Of how we communicate, how we perceive. Pages are very youthful. So there's a fresh new energy coming in that's making us then question who we are now, right? This figure has traveled across the ocean. They've left their homeland and they're now at their new land, but they're now contemplating everything that they've experienced and who that makes them now. Are they going to take the old version of the whole version of self with them in this new landscape, in this new realm, right? So there's an element of, with the inspiration, with the downloads, with the new perspectives, the new instinctive responses, is calling us to then reflect on ourselves, right? And allow for different ideas and different perspectives to come through until we sit with what is in a state of equilibrium for our individual selves. We've got two Libra cards here. This is the moon in Libra, and this is a Libra card as well, with the Queen of Swords. She has one bird on the card. The page has loads. I think the king has 3. This is on her crown chakra. So she's gone through some difficult times, but she's now, her head is above the clouds. She is now contemplating this new crown chakra perspective. She's bringing depth and nuance to what's come through here, that's been activated here. And there's a real sense of being open to this new perspective without denying the past, which is important. And then we've got the Gemini energy, right? We've got the Lovers, and interestingly we have the Lover card turn up. We've also got a card that turned up, it said possibility of union, that came up in the Jupiter reading, so it's kind of funny that it's shown up as talking about it here. So the Lovers is all about being able to make the right decisions from a very integrated place that serve your longer term goals, right? You've got the masculine, feminine spirit, and they're all in alignment with one another to go climb this mountain, right? So there's an element of at crossroads of being able to make the right decisions. This is also about falling in love with life again, being more in alignment with your physical vessel, which means your frequency is then going to be able to draw towards you others in a collaborative sense. Now, Mars, ruler of the sun. So whereas Jupiter and Mercury are basically ruling the whole chart, but they're not, because Mars is in the sun sign of Leo and the sun is in Mars's sign of Scorpio. So again, another mutual reception between these two. Now, we've had it with the moon over the last couple of lunations with Mars and the moon, and now it's shifted to the sun. So they are... Scorpio sun is really the capacity to look at the difficult things, right? To have the difficult conversations in your head or with other people, to find, like, my grandmother was a Scorpio sun. She would read me for filth while I was making her a cup of tea, right? Very blunt, very, like, get to the point, can be a bit brutal. I love it. I love Scorpio energy. I'm here for it. It's sort of very upfront. And that sun is really, I've noticed, just really bringing in our capacity to put the focus on those things without feeling intimidated. As well as cultivating your inner fixed emotional power. And with Mars in Leo is very heart orientated in its actions, right? There's a bit more ease, there's a bit more light around it. Mars in a fire sign, very independent, very instinctive, right? So it's not necessarily what your emotions are telling you, what your body's telling you, what your mind is telling you that leads to your actions. It's very instinctive. You're just compelled, right? You're just like, this is what I'm doing right now. It can come out of nowhere. And that Leo energy rules the heart. It's very warm, it's very playful. So there is this element of play that's influencing what's going on with a very intense sun. Basically, this is through looking at things and being able to look into the darkness, look at difficult things, we are opening up our heart to not hide from certain aspects of ourselves and those things around us, not be in fear of them, right? With that Mars being in Leo, and allowing our actions to come from a place of kindness and a place of love to facilitate the evolution of that Scorpio energy into the root truth of self, rather than, you know, perhaps the paranoia or the catastrophizing that can come in with the Scorpio energy. Don't come for me, Scorpio. My chart is the only water where I've got planets is Scorpio. In fact, Saturn squares my Mercury, my Mars, and my Moon. And I know the levels of darkness that Scorpio can go to. It's not always that fun. And that Mars in Leo is activating a level of fun to all of this, of like, let's not take it all too seriously, Scorpio. While strengthening the impulse of that heart space, of feeling very vibrant, to be able to deal with difficult things that may come up in order to let them go and transmute that energy. Now, Mars is trining the North Node and sextiling the South Node. So unlike Venus, who's squaring everybody, well, not everybody, but Mars is making harmonious aspects to the North and South Node. So there's something around very much being in your flow state, around your independence and your equilibrium, right? And really allowing that, and that's influencing the sun of the vision of where you're headed, right? That's in alignment with this eclipse cycle and the rebalancing of your courage. That isn't about distorting. I just want two more cards. Like, I like Mars making harmonious aspects because it allows the blending of social and individual to combine, right? Without being so independent that you're contrary, or being so people-pleasing that you forget yourself, right? So I really like that this is embodied into the sun of the vision, the illumination, the downloads, the clarity that is influencing the power of this moon that, again, it's in alignment with the nodes. So it's about a longer term cycle of the releasing of the blocks from us to truly manifest from a place of trust and faith in how things unfold. Two more cards for the Mars energy. Mars is also squaring Juno. So again, it's this activation of commitment to your actions your heart not being distorted by any fixed emotional energy from Scorpio that may have previously limited it. And in fact, that heart not being distorted by your inability to look into the darkness. Scorpio, fixed energy, very loyal, right? Very, your ride or die kind of energy you get with fixed energy. And obviously Leo is fixed as well. So there's a real heightened level of commitment to your actions, leading to independence, right? And leading to freedom away from the sort of stagnant, stuck emotional body of our social dynamics of Scorpio, which means, you know, not taking on board what others may be telling you when you're saying, hey, no, miracles are here for everybody. It's not allowing that to affect your manifestation and the actions that you take from your heart. Ooh, there we go. Lots of swords coming in. Right, how do they want to go? So, with that Mars energy influencing the moon. This is Jupiter in Gemini's card, by the way. So a releasing of limitations, right? Not being stuck in cages of our own making, right? These perspectives. And I do feel like this is all linked back to Algol, and distortions of our perspectives in our head that we're now losing. We've then got the Four of Swords, of knowing that we're being held by something bigger than ourselves that's allowing us to contemplate those wounds, but those wounds aren't there. I see the Three of Swords, in order to find the truth, right? And also feeling very protected. This is allowing us to step into the King of Swords. We've got the Page, the Queen, and the King of Swords. And this is a real clarity of perspective. And being able to take action on this new clarity that is seeing momentum and movement out in the world, right? And we're not kind of trying to control what's going on. There are no reins. We understand that everything that we've experienced leading up to this point has been a resource to serve us moving forwards from a place of victory. We've got the 2 victory cards, and then the 2 of Cups. Union, right? A real sense of integration of the masculine, feminine, and spirit, right? They are equal, they are eye to eye, there is respect, honor, and dignity here. I often use this as my Lilith card, right? Even though it's Venus in Cancer. We have the Caduceus in the middle, right? This is a symbol of healing as well as Kundalini awakening. And I really do feel like this is the integration of self, that is allowing for heightened manifestation around, I mean, it is Venus, so there's relationship dynamics externally as well that are no longer diminishing your sense of self. It's not codependency here. This is also your inner alignment. You're in alignment with your guides, with source, that you're feeling more respect, you're feeling more confident in yourself, that you can connect, that you can create, that you can build. You know, it can, you know, there can be a focus around relationships because of that Venus. I cut the deck, got the Devil card, right? The releasing of the wounds of perhaps some karmic relationship dynamics, karmic situations that we are breaking free of. Because of Venus sextiling Juno and Venus being influenced by Saturn, which is another thing, another card of commitment, that there's a real sense of, through the union of self with your physical body and therefore your connection to the 3D world, you are then capable of engaging in equal co-creation, relationship dynamics rather than codependency and stagnation. Harmony, bridges, joy. Oh goodness me, there's a card here, the bridge. That's wild. I'm getting a couple more cards and then we're going to wrap this up. Woo! Tried to keep it under an hour. Every time. We have nature, perspective. So all those sword cards. Devil, trap, loss of freedom, fear, ruthlessness. So yeah, definitely just doubling down on all the messages that have come through. I'm going to get one more just because I'm greedy. Just because I'm greedy. One more card. Final message for me. Thank you. Ooh, turn him up. Nearly. Mars is going to retrograde. I forgot to mention that. It's going to retrograde at 6 degrees of Leo, back to 17 degrees of Cancer. So for a lot of the next couple of months, I mean more than that, we're going to have this Mars retrograde. So Mars ruling the Sun, is obviously our motivation, our drive, and our actions in this is, I think this is why there's so much kind of allow things to unfold and pause and not rush into things, because of Mars, which is very independent, wants to go and do all the things, is going to retrograde. So it's going to recalibrate your motivation, your drive, your action. So you're going to see other things, other pieces of the jigsaw, because with retrogrades, it's often, I didn't clock what this was, the Empress, love it. It's often when you rediscover things and things unfold that it's best not to do all the things straight away, because there's things that you may have missed that are going to serve you in the longer term frequency. So final card, the Empress, hello Venus, development, growth, abundance, productivity. These 4 cards really have summed up everything. Right, I'm going to leave it there. There will be an all 12 signs video series as well as the oracle card reading at the end. If you want a personal reading, my website, my details are everywhere. Be good to yourselves, be good to those around you, safe travels, and be well until we meet again.